Hi, this is Elijah with the Oxygen team. And in this video, we're going to take a look at the Pro Menu element and all of its extensive styling options. I've already set up a page that really needs a navigation menu. So we're going to jump into the back end and go ahead and set up a navigation menu using the Pro Menu element in Oxygen. So here in the builder, we can add a Pro Menu element by either going to Add and going to the WordPress category and choosing Pro Menu, or we can just search for Pro Menu here in the element search, Pro Menu. And we'll click it to add it into our layout. Now it's inserted it into the header builder, but we want it on the right side of the header. So we're going to click and drag it over to row right. Now let's take a look at the properties pane and look at all the configuration options we have. So starting under the primary tab, we have a menu drop down. This allows you to choose which WordPress menu is going to be rendered by the Pro Menu element. In our case, we only have one menu, so it defaults to that menu. Next, we have a mobile menu / toggle below, which is a drop down, and it lets you choose the breakpoint at which this Pro Menu is going to switch to an icon and optional accompanying text and begin triggering the mobile menu on click. So if we choose always, you can see it now is an icon with some menu text. If we click that, it triggers a full screen mobile menu. We can close that out. In most cases, you're going to want to set this for one of the smaller breakpoints, but some sites do use mobile menus for desktop widths to achieve a cleaner look. So you do have that option. I'm going to set mine for less than 768 pixels. Now before we jump into these submenus, I want to talk about the presets functionality that's available for the Pro Menu. Near the bottom of the primary tab of the properties pane, you'll see the presets area. We have a use preset dropdown, which lets you choose from presets that have been saved or that ship with Oxygen. When you choose a preset, it will apply all of the settings of that preset to the Pro Menu element on whichever selector you have selected. So if you have the ID selected up here at the top of the properties pane, it will apply all the styles to the ID. If you have a class selected instead, like Pro Menu, and we choose a preset, like Conference, all of those styles are then applied to that class. We can also delete presets. We can export them by clicking the export button, which will give us a JSON string that we can then import into another install or provide to someone with whom we'd like to share the menu settings. We can also import those JSON strings by clicking the import button and pasting in the JSON string. Finally, we can click clear current styles to clear all styles from the current selected selector. So in this case, we have the class selected at the top of the properties pane. When we click clear current styles and click OK, it's going to clear all the styles we had applied to that class. For this instance, we don't need a class, so I'm going to remove that and we'll go back to the Pro Menu ID, make sure our main menu is selected, and we can jump into some of these submenus. Let's start with Desktop Menu. Here you'll see controls for the orientation of the menu. We can choose horizontal or we can choose vertical. Generally for a desktop menu, you're going to want to choose horizontal. And then we have a typography control set, which allows us to control all the typography of the menu items. So we can choose a font family like Railway. We can change the font size. We can change the font color. The font weight. If we want it a little heavier, we can beef it up, or in this case, I'd like to leave it around 300. We can change the line height, letter spacing. Let's try 2 pixels. Text decoration, including underline, overline, strike through. Font style, which lets us choose normal or italic. And text transform, capitalize, uppercase, lowercase. All the normal typography controls you're used to with, say, a text element in Oxygen. Now let's go back to the desktop menu control set and we'll look at spacing, align, and border controls. So we have item padding controls, which allows us to add a little bit of space around the menu items. This is normally something you'll want to do because you don't want them all crammed together. You can also add margin above, below, to the left and right of the menu items. You can change the text align for the menu items, and you can change the item border radius. Now let's take a look at hover and active. This allows us to determine the styles of the elements while they're hovered or while they're active. So we can change the hover text color to something like white, and we can change the hover background color to something like red. Now, if we hover over the menu elements, you can see they have an active or hovered effect. We can also add a hover border top, hover border bottom, active text color, active background color, active border top, active border bottom, and transition duration. For this, we're going to go ahead and set the transition duration to 0.3 seconds, which will make the hover effect more gradual. Now let's go back and look at the next control set, which will be the desktop drop-down control set. First, we have a checkbox that allows us to enable or disable drop-downs. In most cases, you'll want these to be enabled, but just in case you don't want your drop-downs enabled, we gave you the option. We also have a control for drop-down border radius, which is going to control corner rounding for your drop-downs. And we have animation type. By default, drop-downs fade up into view, but for this we're going to choose something like flip up. Now you can't see it right now because we don't have a background color for the drop-down, but we're going to fix that here in just a moment. Let's go to box shadow, and we can choose the shadow color. I'm going to choose a black that's fairly transparent, and we'll set a horizontal offset of 1, vertical offset of 13. We can also control the blur. So you can see now we have a bit of a shadow around the drop down. And we can control the spread. Now let's go to the next control set, which would be the drop down icon. Here we can choose a drop down icon from any of the SVG icon sets that are available in Oxygen, including your own custom SVG icon sets that you've uploaded. In this case, we're going to choose linear icons, and let's scroll through and find something that looks nice for a drop-down menu, like this chevron. Now, this is a bit large, so we're probably going to want to reduce the size, but we also can change the color of it. Say we wanted it to be red instead of the dark red that we have, we could do that, but in this case, let's keep it as this dark red color, and let's reduce the size quite a bit. We don't want it that big. And then we can set the icon margins. We can also set the icon space, which will give it a little bit more breathing room here. And we can set the rotation and the open rotation. So right now, if we set rotation, it's going to change the actual rotation of the icon by default. In our case, let's leave it pointing up. So we'll set it to 0 degrees. And then open rotation, let's have it rotate all the way around 180 degrees. So now if we hover over it, you can see the chevron turns around. We can also control the icon transition duration. Let's set it to 0.3 seconds. And let's take a look at the next control set. Now we're into drop-down colors. So let's choose drop-down colors. We can change the background color of the drop-down menu. In this case, let's go with white. We can change the hover background color. In this case, let's go with red. And we can change the link color. In this case, let's keep it this dark purple. And we can change the hover text color, which I think we probably want to make it white. So now this will match the parent menu items mostly. So let's hover over our drop down. Perfect. And if we save this and jump into the front end, you'll be able to see the drop down effects. As you can see, our icon rotates on hover, and when we hover the child elements, we also have our hover background and hover link colors. And this also extends to our sub menus within our drop-down hierarchy. Now let's jump back over to Oxygen and continue looking at the settings that are available. So that is the drop-down colors. Finally, we have drop-down child link controls. So here we can control link padding, font family, font size, color, font weight, and all your general typography controls, specifically for the drop-down elements. So if, for instance, we wanted the drop-down links to be a bit smaller than the parents, We could do that. We could set it to something like 16 pixels. And now you'll see their font size is a bit smaller than the parent elements. Now let's jump back into the properties pane. Let's click mobile menu. And here we'll start with open icon layout. Now to see these changes, we're going to go ahead and switch our viewport to less than 768 pixels so that our menu switches to the mobile mode. Now we can choose an icon here that will represent our menu and be the clickable element for users who want to trigger the mobile menu. So let's scroll through and find something that looks nice for a menu. In this case, let's go with a classic hamburger with a circle around it. Perfect. And then we can also change the text here. So say we wanted to say nav, we can do that. Or in this case, let's just get rid of the text. Perfect. We can change the icon size, the margin above and below, the right margin, which allows you to have some separation between the icon text and the icon if you did have icon text. We can change the icon color, which we'll do here. We'll change it to red. The icon hover color, we'll change it to dark red. And we can change the padding color, which changes the background color of the icon, which in this case we do not want a padding color, so we'll clear that out. Padding hover color, padding border radius, and icon transition duration, which allows to smoothly transition between the hover state and the non-hover state of the icon. Next up, we have open icon typography. This is going to allow us to control all the typographical settings for the open icon text, assuming you have open icon text present in your design. Now let's jump over to close icon. These controls are going to be very similar to the open icon, but they style the close icon here when the Pro Menu mobile mode is open. So let's clear this out and let's pick a more appropriate icon. I usually like to stay consistent, so we'll look and see if there is an X with a circle around it, and there is. Perfect. We can also change the icon text, the icon position relative to the top of the mobile menu container, the icon position relative to the left of the mobile menu container, the icon size, the margin above and below, the margin to the right to give it a little bit of breathing room between the icon and the text, the icon color, the icon hover color, the padding color, padding hover color, padding border radius, and icon transition duration. Most of these controls are the same as the open icon. In this case, we do not want any text, so we're going to go ahead and remove the icon text. So we'll highlight this and just delete it. Perfect. And then we can move on to the next control set, which will be close icon typography. So again, this affects the typographical settings for the text next to the close icon. These are all the normal typography controls you're used to with text elements in Oxygen. And in this case, we don't need to make any adjustments, but they're available if you do. Next, we have menu styles, which is going to give us a lot more control over how the mobile menu behaves. So just to illustrate this, I'm going to close out this menu, and then I'm going to check the off canvas checkbox, which will cause our mobile menu to no longer be a full screen mobile menu, which is what you're used to from the normal Oxygen menu element, and that's what we just saw. But instead, it will cause the mobile menu to be an off canvas menu, which means we can choose the off canvas alignment, left or right. In this case, let's go right. And then we can choose an animation that's used for animating the menu into the view. We're going to go very basic here and choose slide left. Finally, we have animation duration, so we can make it faster or slower. For this example, we'll go to 0.6 seconds, just so that it's very easy to see it animating in. Now, if we go up and click our toggle icon, you'll see that the menu is animated in smoothly from the right side of the viewport. And we can click our X to close it. But in this case, we're going to leave it open because we're going to make one more styling adjustment here. If we wanted to, we could also change the background color of the mobile menu, the link text color, the link text hover color, link padding, container padding, which we are going to set left and right container padding here of 32 pixels, and the item text align, left, center, or right. In this case, I like the styles we have, so I'm not going to make any adjustments. Now let's go back and take a look at mobile menu typography. This is exactly what you would expect, but it allows you to set the typography for the link items in the mobile menu only. So you can change font family, font size, color, font weight, line height, all the normal typography settings you'd expect with a text element. So let's go back and back again. And now we're on to the final control set for the Pro menu, which is mobile dropdowns. We have a few options here. We can completely hide dropdowns in the mobile menu. We can show them in line, which is the behavior you're used to from the normal menu element. Or new in the Pro menu element, you can choose to set the mobile dropdowns to behave as toggles. When they're set as toggles, clicking the icon will cause the submenu to toggle open. And clicking it again will cause it to close. So we can control that here. If you don't like that behavior and you just want to show them in line, you can do that, or you can hide them. You can control the animation duration of the toggle behavior, and we can control the drop-down icon size here as well. Sometimes you might want your mobile drop-down icons to be a bit larger in order to be more usable on mobile touch-based interfaces. So you have that control there. You can also change the drop-down background color, the drop-down border top, width, color, and style. And that just applies a bit of a style to the submenu so that you can see the hierarchy. In the case of a multi-level submenu like this, it allows you to easily tell how deep you are into the menu and expand or close the items. So we've covered all of the control sets that are present for the Pro menu. And as you can see, it's a very powerful tool for achieving attractive and functional navigation for your site. Again, this is Elijah with the Oxygen team, and that's how to use the Pro menu element in Oxygen. Thank you for watching.